And we are back with round 2 of vintage and discontinued watches that need to come back. Check out our earlier video for a Patek that's better than the Cubitus, a potential hit for Cartier, as well as some strongly worded suggestions for Rolex, Omega, and my beloved Audemars Piguet. We got 5 more brands on the docket today, including Tudor, Vacheron, and a last one that might have a decent chance of becoming reality. Obviously, the best choice for a Vacheron revival is the 222 in steel. I've spoken about this several times before, and it seems like a no-brainer. People loved the yellow gold version, and all you have to do is swap the case material. I wouldn't say no to a titanium 222 either, but that's a different story. Now that we got the obvious part out of the way, I'll shout out a deep cut. Okay, 2 deep cuts that I personally would love to see remade. The first is the Jump Hour reference 43040. Between 1993 and 1995, Vacheron made only 250 in yellow gold and only 150 in platinum. The watch features the JLC design caliber 920, which was the world's thinnest automatic movement when it debuted in 1967. The watch features a jumping hour nicely framed at the top of the dial and a wandering arrow for the minutes. You've got depth from the multiple layers here and a delightfully subtle guilloche pattern. It's a beautiful balance of complexity and simplicity. This reminds me, Cartier should totally relaunch their Tanka guilloche jump hour. Okay, but back to Vacheron. I would also love to see the reference 91022 come back to life. It's got a built-in shutter mechanism that is the opposite of useful, but that's why it's fun. These requests for my personal favorites are rather unrealistic, so again, just make the steel 222 already. If you ask me what I think about Breitling, I would say I don't. There's nothing wrong with them, I just don't have an aviation interest, I'm not big into chronographs. The Navitimer 806 is fantastic, but that can stay vintage. There is one Breitling, one of the least Breitling watches, that I would love to see reappear. The Super Ocean Heritage 57 had a short production run of only a few years. It's rooted in 1950s surf culture, and it's based on my all-time favorite Breitling, the reference 1004. The modern but now discontinued version is sleek at less than 10 millimeters in thickness. It's functional but not too sporty, and the hands and hour markers give it a serious funk factor. While many dive watches are focused on being as tough as can be, the Super Ocean Heritage 57 is focused on being beautiful, not to mention comfortable. All that said, I would shrink the case a bit and make the watch less shiny. The opportunity for Breitling here is to recreate the category of skin divers. These were dive watches that sacrificed some water resistance in favor of slimmer cases. With the success of the Tudor Black Bay 54, skin divers are a category that could have legs to it, and Breitling has a design in their archives that would fit right in. This next one's tougher than the rest. We're talking about IWC. Now I want to say they should bring back the Mark series in either a chronograph or as a simple 3-hander, but that would cannibalize sales for their current lineup of Pilot's watches. I also want to throw out a personal favorite and say they should revive the Yacht Club 2, particularly the reference IW3212, which is the jumbo 38mm automatic version. It's one of the more unknown and certainly underrated Gerald Genta designs, and it would be killer in titanium. But that would cannibalize sales for their Ingenieur. So with those conflicts in mind, let's try something a little different. Back in the 1980s and 90s, IWC teamed up with Porsche Design to create a range of watches including chronographs, divers, moon phases, and time onlys. The most popular among these is the Ocean 2000. I'm not sure how I like the bracelet, but the overall look and feel of this watch is super cool in a futuristic way. That's certainly a contender, and I could also see the brand bringing back the Compass watch. The IW 3510 and 3511 have a hidden compass beneath the dial. Simply lift up the crown to reveal it. A compass is not the most useful complication, if you want to call it that, but it is a fun surprise. Maybe you could even replace it with another modern tool, maybe a step counter or something. Either way, the Ocean 2000 and the Compass watch in a Ceratanium case could be cool. Tudor has 2 main options in my mind when it comes to potential revivals. Okay, 3 including the Tudor Submariner, but they don't need yet another dive watch line. Realistically, they could bring back the Monte Carlo chronograph. It's a funky design that collectors love, but they already did this not long ago with the Heritage chronograph. And there are many who would argue that the big block is the Tudor chronograph that most deserves a revival. That brings us to the Tudor North Flag. Now this is a watch that was technically inspired by the Tudor Oyster Princess that went on the British North Greenland expedition in 1952. but the design seems to take more direct inspiration from the Tudor Ranger 2 from the 1970s. The Tudor Northflag is a watch that rubs a lot of people the wrong way. The design direction is sporty in a way that reminds me of Gatorade or hockey equipment. The power reserve is hard to get right, and overall the Northflag just feels a little weird. Still, I'd argue that there's potential in an integrated bracelet sport watch for Tudor. They had the Tudor Royal, which deserves more attention, but it's a little too similar to a Day-Date without the magic of a Day-Date. I could see Tudor bringing back the integrated bracelet in a slimmer, sleeker update, but what would be an even better fit would be to treat it like a Royal Oak Offshore. And by that I mean, take the snowflake hand, take the square hour markers of the Pelagos, but puff it up, make it a little over top in a macho G.I. Joe kind of way. Remember that Richard Mille that had like a compass and like water purification pill tablet storage? Like that, but better, and not $1 million. Last one, and I think this one could happen. We're talking about TAG Heuer, who has gotten renewed interest from enthusiasts in the last few years by relaunching and remastering their greatest hits. We're talking watches like the Glassbox Carrera, the Skipper, and the Seafarer. You could certainly criticize this approach as being a little lazy or unoriginal, but because a lot of the brand's new designs just don't do it for me, it's good to see them opt for a proven success from time to time. One new launch that was actually a relaunch that was actually kind of decent is the return of the TAG Heuer Formula 1. The collaboration with Kith felt unnecessary, and the $1,500 price tag was certainly unnecessary, but there's opportunity for improvement here. My dream would be for TAG to use the new LVMH sponsorship and create cheap, fun Moonswatch-esque Formula 1 watches for each of the 10 Formula 1 teams. As an F1 fan, I know there would be a lot of issues in terms of legality and conflicts with other sponsors to navigate, but this feels like what TAG Heuer should be doing. The Moonswatch was controversial at first, but it was net positive because it got a lot of people interested in Omega who otherwise might not have bothered. TAG Heuer needs a popularity boost, and this feels like a more successful strategy than throwing money at Sergio Perez. Sorry, Checo. I'm a Ferrari fan, but I'd love to see a papaya-colored watch for McLaren, or an Esteban Ocon limited edition that randomly loses 20 seconds. Okay, let's end it on a joke, shall we? Those are 5 more watches from 5 more brands that potentially be a good idea to bring back to life. What do you like? What would you change? And what watches would you bring back if you were in charge? Drop a comment below.